after last night's incredible win against Tottenham, my friends. Today, I'm here to have a discussion surrounding Pochettino's future at our football club. Last night in his post-match presses, he revealed some great insight behind some of the difficulties and challenges of this season, which I must admit has kind of made me re-examine some of my criticisms against Pochettino, and now it's got me thinking, what is actually the most responsible long-term planning that is needed for this young squad for the future? So I hope you guys listen to what I have to say, get involved in the conversation, and of course hit that like button if you're still pumped with last night's results. There's going to be tons of videos coming out. I think there's so many, in fact, that I'm going to have to move the What We Learned video to tomorrow instead, because I'm not actually allowed to upload 3 videos in a row. That is the limit you have with YouTube, and because of that limit, I'm actually thinking of creating a BlueLionsTV 2 channel this summer, which would actually allow me to maybe do more Chelsea related content, like make more reaction videos. They're the type of things I like to do, but I don't always have the time because there is like a 2 video limit, and then after the 2 video limit, your videos won't get promoted, and then it's literally just like a lottery ticket in regards to whether you guys see it or not. So I know it's a bit of a long-winded intro, but hope you guys enjoy. Sit back, relax, and let's discuss what Pochettino had to say after last night's win. Anyway, in Pochettino's press conference for the pre-match talks before West Ham, he was asked more questions surrounding his future, and here's what Pochettino had to say to these remarks. You're seeing his quotes on screen. Essentially, I have 1 year left on my deal, and at the moment, nobody's saying that I won't be here next season. If someone says to me, ciao, then I don't know then. But at the moment, I have 1 year left on my deal. But to be honest, enough of these stupid rumours, because what has it got to do with me? Talk to the club. Ask the club. It's not in my hands. And I think that's a fair and honest assessment and take. And I get this energy too, because obviously we got 4 big games left, 4 winnable games. And it's not about focusing on things that you can't control. You must focus on the 4 remaining games left, because if we can somehow go on a run of wins, win all 4 games, who knows if by some miracle we can secure a European spot at the end of the season. And if that happens, then we contextualize how we see Pochettino. And then we think to ourselves, if he has 1 year left on his deal, yes, there was an extension included, but there was 1 year left on his deal, should he get enough time to complete what he's starting with us? I think that's what I want to discuss right now, because I'm still having these conflicted thoughts. I think it's worth discussing all the latest post-match news that came out after our 2-0 win against Spurs last night. Pochettino had some things to say. I'm going to be amassing his views and thoughts from Sky Sports interviews, media stuff afterwards, etc, etc. But as Pochettino said last night, I don't know if it's the best game, but it's the most happy I've been after winning. In the way that we play, the way we compete, this is what we wanted from the beginning of the season. We want to apply to the team. Today we were so competitive. In this way we can grow, we can do better, and we can improve in the areas. It is not easy to create a competitive group of players. We are trying to find this balance. People are starting to realize it is a process, the time that you need. And honestly, I fully agree with this, because it was probably one of the most complete performances on and off the ball. And they're the ingredients for success that you need to compete and win in this Premier League. To move on, he was in such praise of Noni Madueke. As he said, Noni Madueke today, for me, unbelievable. If you analyze him from the start of the season, all the conversations and meetings, clips and videos, things like this, he was capable today of doing a fantastic job with the ball. Of course, he is an offensive player, but without the ball, he is doing a fantastic job helping Alfie defend. This is what we need for the future to build this competitive spirit. And I think it's so good that he was in praise of Noni, because listen, there were a few times that Noni is a bit raw still. I think at times he can get too attracted to wanting to win that ball back, but it's the application. It's the mentality, it's that aggressiveness. In the past 2 games versus Villa and also against Spurs, I think he's clocked over 20 tackles. He's unrelenting in his pressing and defensive duties, and he was so key for us, because with Alfie Gilchrist tucking inside to form a back 4, it meant that we needed to create that back 6 with Noni essentially defending the wide areas, which he did time and time again. And he also came back consistently to double up alongside Gilchrist to try and stop Son. He's come such a long way, but I'll be discussing Noni in today's What We Learned video later this evening, so stay tuned, my friends. Naturally, Pochettino had some thoughts about his future as well as Conor Gallagher's. In regards to Gallagher, Poch reiterated yet again Gallagher's importance to this team, stressing that this is why he's played week in, week out for a reason. But ultimately, he is not involved in the decision making. It's fixed between him and the club. But in regards to himself, as he said, I think enough is enough. All the managers need time to translate their ideas and their philosophy. More when the team is like this squad is. We need to have time. It's not my decision. It's difficult to see every single week that I'm not under scrutiny and I'm under judgment, but it's not my decision to be here or not to be here. And I guess it must be a bit frustrating when you can kind of see that there is something now starting to form with this team after all the hard work, all the difficulties, all the complications that you've suffered throughout this season. You're getting closer to that horizon and you're starting to see that actually the future is a bit bright. If I can have that sign of confidence from the club that they believe in me and they want me to continue my work for next season, this could put everyone in a better place. I think that's the energy that I'm getting from Pochettino. I can imagine that the constant frustration to be under scrutiny week in, week out. And listen, me, myself, throughout the season, I've been Poch in, Poch out. It's been so hard for me to really have a conclusive, strong opinion because I think performances and results just like yo-yo so much. Maybe I need to learn to look back over a period of time to maybe analyze what's going on. But again, you see a performance like last night that comes out from nowhere, and then you think, okay, maybe there's something here. But before I end things, I think the most fascinating, interesting part of this interview was Pochettino talking directly to Sky Sports. I'm going to play you guys a segment of what exactly he had to say. Now, I got this clip from social media. It doesn't necessarily paint the full context in which the conversation started. Obviously, I watched that, and the conversation originated from JB Redknapp essentially asking, was this the easiest lineup that you had to pick throughout this whole season?
Players, when players are not in a best form, in the best form, competing, but because people believe that because it's a name, should play, but it's not in form or it's not, in their best. And I think the team from the beginning of the season, I think we suffered too many problems that sometimes the names were there, but not in our best. And never really we get the belief, to say we need to play in this way. I think too many individual, target or objective before to the team. I think it's true that.
And with Pochettino's answers, originally I was thinking, okay, is he just targeting the sporting directors? But after listening to it a few times, I think he was just talking in general about the expectations placed on him and the squad. And I think an example of a player he may be thinking about that I was thinking about was Mykhailo Mudryk, because at the start of the season when he was out the lineup, there was lots of outcry, especially from the fan base, the media, etc, etc. Why is Mudryk not playing? Why is Ben playing left wing? How is Mudryk going to improve if you're not going to give him the game time? But as Pochettino says, some of these guys weren't in the best form, the best conditions. And I think because of that, it forced Poch into this situation where he had to kind of build around the losses he was facing. He had to try and find and formulate a new way to compete that wasn't necessarily the way that he wanted to get us playing to begin with. And I've said throughout the season, my biggest criticism of Pochettino has been the over-coaching and over-complication of his ideas. We saw this at the start of the season when we saw Levi Cole playing as the additional centre-back / left-back. I understood what he was trying to do, but the conditions of the team wasn't really suited to utilising Cole that way. We could have benefited from having Maatsen playing left-back at the time, with Cole playing naturally in his best position in defence. Interestingly though, I think that if Cole was to continue to play as this centre-back / left-back role right now, similar to what we saw from Alfie Gilchrist last night, we'd probably look better because maybe some of the wingers now, in your Maduekes, your Mudryks and other attacking players, are now doing a few more things that they weren't showing at the start of the season. And I think ultimately this is what Pochettino is trying to discuss, trying to clarify. But as he said, it was actually a lot simpler for Pochettino to pick last night's lineup. As Poch said, it's not about names, it's about being competitive, which essentially translates to meaning, and it's something I've said before, the team comes over individuals. And I think Pochettino is trying to say that he found difficulties creating that team balance. that team structure that benefits everyone, because maybe he didn't have the individuals that he needed at the time to be at that level that he needed them on. And I guess this is where maybe his decision making came under question and scrutiny, because I can understand what he was going for, but the ideas weren't working and they weren't correct at times. And you know what the funny thing is? I feel like if Pochettino could maybe go back to the start of the season, knowing all the information he has on this team, I think he does things completely differently. I think he starts the season off by being more offensive, embracing the fact that we probably have to concede goals to score goals, but at least I'm building that confidence. When more players come back, I can then improve on fine-tuning and addressing certain weaknesses and aspects in my team. And I think this is why he's feeling a bit hopeful now, that if we did get another season to remain and stay, there is a big possibility for this team to show great improvements and great strides. You know, we cannot forget that with the losses of so many players on a consistent basis, you know, Reece James, you know, Ben, Nkunku. Imagine if Nkunku's playing. This guy is probably on double digits for goals and assists because he's a world-class player, and that's what world-class players do. There's been so many issues throughout the team that has kind of curtailed and, you know, made things a lot harder for him to find that balance and consistency. So it's so crazy. But yet again, I feel like my stance around Pochettino, I still don't have a conclusive opinion on whether we keep him or not. On one hand, I can see the benefits of keeping him, knowing that the team actually believe in him. And if the team and the squad are united behind their beliefs that Pochettino is a guy they want to continue to work under, I don't think that's something that can be easily dismissed just like that. I think that has to be something that has to be respected, that has to be understood, because clearly he's doing the right things. He's training these guys the right way, and his ideas of playing are something the players support and get behind and actually enjoy. That is the key thing. And you can argue, of course, Pochettino's been able to get the best out of guys like Palmer. We're seeing attacking players slowly improving. We're seeing different capacities added to this team right now. Imagine if he gets another preseason, knowing that, okay, we've worked through a lot of the hard points throughout the season. I understand you guys better. You understand me better. All we have to simply do is fine-tune certain aspects of this team. Don't overdo it too much. We don't have to overspend in the market, because a lot of what you guys have been showing me is a lot of positivity and a lot of hope for the future. But ultimately, that is a different question entirely, because it comes down to whether this board is going to undermine Pochettino. Are they going to keep him? We don't even know that. Are they going to listen to his opinions on how to address the team? If he wants to keep Chalobah and Gallagher, but the club is set on selling these guys, how does that actually help Pochettino's position when these are two key players that understand his ideas? I mean, he said in his post-match talk after the game, you know, players that come from the club, they have the emotional capacity which, you know, they want to win even more than the other players in the team. You know, if you're Chalobah, if you're Gallagher, I mean, you've grown up as a kid within the club's setup and structure. You've known your whole lives we don't lose against Tottenham. That's something they were taught, and I know this. They were taught this even during the academy days, because that is the type of ethos, that's the type of culture, keyword culture, that you cultivate and you can benefit from when you introduce players like this into your first team. And as I keep saying, man, I'm sorry, better teams than us, Barca, Madrid, etc., etc. How often do you see their squads filled with homegrown and club-produced talents? You need that combination of that to build a team. A team. And I feel like that's something a lot of us can maybe think more deeply about and really like think about the layers behind what a team means. A team isn't just having the sexiest names on the field, because if that was the case, there would be a million examples of superstar clubs full of 25-man superstars that we would have had so many examples of witnessing our whole lives. But it doesn't work like that, because ultimately it's not the best way to address and balance the needs of a squad and then later on a team. And I feel like Pochettino understands what's needed, and ultimately it really comes down now between whether the directors decide to keep him, believe in him, and understand, listen, realistically, could there be a risk now in redoing everything again, bringing in a new manager that's probably going to need even more time to address his ideas, because it means that everything learnt this season goes out the door and everything gets switched up again. And when you're constantly chopping and changing ideas and understandings and tactics and systems with a very young and inexperienced squad, is that the best thing for their development? Does it just make sense for Poch to at least be here until guys like Pires come to the club? And at least then, you know, he's fostering the spirit. He's fostering the culture within the squad that maybe then makes it easier for other managers in the future to come in and do what they have to do, right? It's almost like when, for example, Graham Potter went to Brighton. They're a completely different football team before Potter spent the next 3 years restructuring, rephasing, and, you know, kind of just rebuilding the whole culture of what it means to be Brighton, which then meant that Brighton then can actually target someone like a De Zerbi who can kind of continue certain ideas whilst also bringing in his ideas to begin with. Compared to, imagine if like De Zerbi took over from Chris Hughton when Brighton weren't playing any of the football that they're showing right now. You get what I'm trying to say? So this is where my thinking is right now surrounding Pochettino's future at this football club. But again, this season has been mixed with a balance of like highs, lows, and in between. It's literally, that has been the constant this season. But at least that shows us maybe that there's something that could be built from. I know I've been saying throughout the season, what do we take from this season on to next? But if we end the season strongly, which maybe after seeing what we've done against Villa and Spurs, if we get this result against West Ham on Sunday, then it kind of just like rechanges everything in terms of ideas, right? So we see what happens. But in the meantime, it's such a weird one, but I feel like I'm yo-yoing yet again. I'm going to wait before I give you guys my conclusive opinion on whether we keep Poch, but at the moment, I am seeing some benefits behind the possibilities of doing so. But I think when I see what happens on Sunday against West Ham, if we can finally go past like the 3-game mark of showing consistency over 3 games, not just like 2 good games and 1 crap one, and then 1 mid one, then 2 good games and then 2 crap ones and 1 mid one. If I can see that continuity against West Ham, I'm going to have a lot more confidence behind my opinion surrounding Pochettino's future. But all I can say is that maybe I'm softening some of my stances, especially after hearing his explanations and now really re-examining some of the criticisms that I've had against Poch this season, and maybe understanding where my criticisms were coming from with a different lens now, as Pochettino was kind of just giving us some context. So my friends, that's the latest from Pochettino. Where do you stand right now? Irrespective of our great result against Spurs, do you feel like Poch is someone you give this team 1 more year with? Or do you think this is the time right now to phase him out and hire someone new? So let us know in the comments. I'm NEFC, this is BlueLionsTV. I'll see you guys later with some more videos. Cool.